Hello, and welcome to the first module covering MIOSHA's Hazard Communication Standard. In this module, we'll discuss an overview of the standard and examples of hazardous chemicals. The purpose of the Hazard Communication Standard is to facilitate a uniform method for classifying the hazards of chemicals and provide that information to the end user to ensure worker safety. The Hazard Communication Standard uses the Global Harmonized System, GHS, to develop a uniform framework for the classification of chemicals and development of labels and safety data sheets which convey chemical hazards. The GHS system is an international system used by more than 80 countries and creates a common approach among trading partners. Recent updates improve the amount and quality of information available to end users. The Hazard Communication Standard applies to an employer with chemicals known to be in the workplace which employees may be exposed to during normal use or in the event of emergencies. Requirements in the standard apply to chemical manufacturers, importers, distributors, and employers who use hazardous chemicals. This standard applies to general industry, construction, and agricultural activities. Because MIOSHA is a state plan, coverage applies to both private and public sector employees. Hazardous chemicals are any chemical which is classified as a physical hazard, health hazard, simple asphyxiant, combustible dust, pyrophoric gas, or has a hazard that cannot otherwise be classified. The chemical manufacturer or importer is responsible for determining if a chemical meets one or more of these hazard classifications. The chart below shows the physical and health hazards identified in the standard, which will be detailed in Module 2. Chemicals which may be covered by the standard include more commonly thought of items such as corrosive cleaning solvents, flammable paints, oils, lubricants, and others. However, products such as bricks, metal ingots, or welding rods are also considered hazardous chemicals, since during expected use, hazards may be created when they are cut, grinded, melted, or otherwise processed. Wood products may also be included based on the ability for dust to cause respiratory irritation or sensitization, and treated lumber may contain harmful chemicals, as shown by the photo in the lower right-hand corner. More examples of covered chemicals may include simple asphyxiants, such as gases like nitrogen, argon, or carbon dioxide. These may be used for industrial applications like welding, laser operation, growing, food processing, and heat treating. Batteries can expose employees to corrosives, flammables, or other hazards when they are serviced or recycled. In the healthcare industry, drugs which may create a hazard for the user are covered when they are not in their solid, final form. Covered drugs may be in forms such as solids, which are crushed prior to being administered, powdered, or liquids which can accidentally be absorbed, ingested, or injected. Consumer products may also be covered if they are used in a quantity or frequency more than a normal household consumer, or in a manner outside of their intended use. These are just a few examples of the multitude of industries, chemicals, and employee exposures that are covered by MIOSHA's Hazard Communication Standard. If you are unsure of a chemical in your workplace, reach out to the person responsible for the facility's hazard communication program. Below is a list of each section in MIOSHA's Hazard Communication Standard. The Scope and Application section provide information on which industries and workplaces the standard applies to, as well as any situations or chemicals which are exempt from aspects of the standard. The Definitions section provides clarification on terms used throughout the standard. Paragraph D and the appendices focus heavily on requirements for chemical manufacturers and importers, covering the hazard classification requirements, criteria for those classifications, shipped labeling criteria, safety data sheet required information, trade secret definitions, and classifications for carcinogenic chemicals. Paragraph E provides the requirements for the written hazard communication program, which explains how the requirements for labeling, safety data sheets, and employee training will be met in the workplace where hazardous chemicals are used. Paragraphs F and G give requirements for labels and safety data sheets for manufacturers and end users. Paragraph H states what type of information and training must be provided to employees who use hazardous chemicals. Paragraph I provides guidance to manufacturers on how to properly convey information considered a trade secret and when that information may be requested. A written hazard communication program will address how requirements for the labeling, safety data sheets, and employee training will be accomplished at the worksite. The program will also include methods used to inform employees of hazardous non-routine tasks and the system used to identify pipes containing hazardous chemicals like compressed air, natural gas, acetylene, or others. An inventory list of all hazardous chemicals used at the facility must also be developed. Where there are multiple employers at a work site, such as when contractors visit your facility or you work at another employer's site, the program must identify how information related to precautionary measures, labeling, and safety data sheet access will be shared with employers. This program must be available for employees to review if they have any questions. This concludes Module 1. Module 2 will address the chemical classifications of the Hazard Communication Standard.